In a quiet town in the countryside, where life followed a slower pace and people knew each other by name, lived Ethan Thompson, a 35-year-old man, tall, with brown hair. Around his eyes, he bore the marks of sleepless nights and constant worries. He was known for his dedication to his work as a civil engineer, and more recently, for being a single father struggling to raise his 4-year-old son Liam. Liam was an adorable child, with curly blonde hair and blue eyes that resembled the sky on a clear day. He had a contagious smile, but lately it appeared less often. The sudden departure of his mother, Laura, had left a deep mark on both the little boy and his father. The Thompson house, once a home filled with laughter and joy, now seemed dark and silent. The yellow walls of the living room, which once reflected the sunlight and the family's happiness, now appeared pale and lifeless. Toys scattered across the floor told the story of a childhood interrupted, while piles of papers and documents on the dining table revealed Ethan's struggle to balance work and parenthood. Every morning, the father woke up before dawn, prepared breakfast for Liam, and took him to daycare. Then, he rushed to the office where he spent the day amidst projects and meetings, his mind constantly divided between professional responsibilities and concern for his son. At night, exhausted, Ethan would pick Liam up from daycare and try to create moments of connection. They would have dinner together, with Ethan asking about his son's day, while Liam responded with few words, his eyes often lost in thoughts that a 4-year-old shouldn't have. "How was your day, champ?" Ethan would ask, trying to keep an upbeat tone. "It was good, Dad," Liam would respond, playing with his food without much enthusiasm. Ethan felt his heart grow heavy every time he looked at the boy. It was painful to see Liam suffering in silence, confused and sad, not understanding why his mother had left without a word. How do you explain to such a small child that sometimes the people we love just go away without reason, without warning? He wanted to protect his son from that pain, but didn't know how. The words seemed to fail him, and the feeling of helplessness only grew. The nights were the worst. After putting Liam to bed, Ethan would sit in the living room, surrounded by the oppressive silence of the house. He looked at the photos on the wall, images of happier times, and wondered where he had gone wrong. Why had Laura left without even a farewell note? How could he be both a father and a mother at the same time? It was on one of those nights, when the weight of loneliness seemed to crush his chest, that Ethan decided he needed help. He couldn't go on like this. Liam deserved more, and so did he. The next morning, Ethan arrived at the office with deep, dark circles under his eyes and an extra-large cup of coffee in his hand. His co-worker, Daniel, a jovial 40-year-old man, immediately noticed his condition. "Hey, Ethan, are you okay?" Daniel asked with evident concern in his voice. Ethan sighed, running his hand through his disheveled hair. "I'm surviving, Daniel, but it's hard to juggle everything." Daniel nodded understandingly. "Listen, I heard about a girl who's looking for a job as a nanny. She seems quite experienced and trustworthy. Want me to pass on the contact?" Ethan hesitated. The last experience with a nanny hadn't been good. The woman seemed impatient with Liam, and Ethan couldn't trust her, but he knew he needed help. "All right, Daniel, send me the contact." "Thanks," Ethan replied, feeling a mix of hope and apprehension. That night, Ethan called the number Daniel had given him. A soft and cheerful voice answered on the other end of the line. They spoke briefly, and Ethan explained his situation. The woman, who introduced herself as Mariana, seemed understanding and professional. They scheduled an interview for the next day. When the doorbell rang the following afternoon, Ethan took a deep breath, trying to calm his nerves. He opened the door and could hardly believe what he saw. There, standing on his porch, was Mariana Carter, an old college friend he hadn't seen in over 10 years. Mariana still had the same warm smile and calm energy he remembered. Her brown hair was shorter now, framing a face that had matured but still held the same kindness from years ago. "Mariana, is that you?" Ethan asked, surprised. "Ethan!" "What an incredible coincidence," she replied, laughing. "I didn't even know this was your house. Daniel, the man who referred me, didn't mention your name." Ethan invited her in, suddenly feeling aware of the mess in his house. They sat in the living room, and Ethan couldn't help but notice how Mariana's presence seemed to bring life back into the space. "So, Mariana," Ethan began, still a little stunned by the coincidence, "what brings you back to the city?" Mariana smiled, her eyes shining with a mixture of nostalgia and determination. "I've always thought this place was full of opportunities and good vibes. I decided it was time for a fresh start." Ethan nodded, understanding the sentiment. "And why did you decide to work as a nanny? If I'm not mistaken, you were pursuing a career in marketing, right?" Mariana's smile faltered for a moment, and Ethan noticed a shadow pass through her eyes. "Things took a different turn. I went through an extremely stressful period, which completely drained me. It was then that I realized I needed a change. I decided to follow a new path, something that would allow me to reconnect with what really matters, taking care of people." Ethan felt a wave of empathy. He knew well what it felt like to be extremely tired and stressed. "I'm sorry to hear that, Mariana." She shook her head, her smile returning. "It's all right now. Sometimes things need to fall apart so we can rebuild something better." As they talked, memories from college days began to return to Ethan. He remembered how Mariana was always kind and intelligent, and they were good friends back then. He, Mariana, and a few other colleagues always studied at the college library late into the night, studying and helping everyone as much as they could. But that wasn't all. There was another memory, deeper and more significant, that came to the surface. It was the end of the semester, and Mariana was visibly shaken. Ethan found her crying in the college hallway, hidden in a corner, trying to disguise her tear-soaked face. He approached carefully, asking if everything was okay. "It's my mother," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "She is sick, and I don't know how I'm going to pay for the treatment bills. I'm thinking about dropping out of college to work full-time." Ethan didn't hesitate. He knew that Mariana was one of the most dedicated students in the class, always the first to arrive and the last to leave the lectures. He couldn't let her give up. "Mariana, you can't give up," he said firmly. "You are one of the smartest people I know. We'll find a solution together." That week, Ethan helped Mariana organize a fundraiser among the college students. He spent hours printing flyers, sending emails, and talking to professors to gain support. In the end, they managed to raise enough to cover part of her mother's medical expenses. Mariana never forgot that gesture. "You not only helped me stay in college," she said years later, "but you also showed me that I wasn't alone. I will never forget what you did for me. Now I feel it's my turn to give back in this moment of your life." Ethan was thrilled by her words. He never imagined that those small acts of kindness had made such a significant impact on someone. They continued talking, and Ethan shared about Liam and the situation with Laura. Mariana listened attentively, offering words of comfort and understanding. When Liam came back from daycare, Mariana introduced herself with a warm smile, and to Ethan's surprise, the boy responded with a shy smile of his own. In the days that followed, the young woman started working as the boy's nanny, and the change was almost immediate. She brought a positive energy to the house, filling the empty spaces with laughter and stories. Liam, who had been quiet and withdrawn since his mother left, began to open up again. Mariana had a special way of dealing with Liam. She created educational games, read stories with funny voices, and encouraged him to express his feelings through drawings and play. Slowly, the sparkle returned to the boy's eyes. Ethan watched in amazement as Mariana turned simple tasks into adventures. One day, when he came home from work, he found the kitchen covered in flour, with Liam and Mariana laughing as they made cookies. "Daddy, look, we're making astronaut cookies," Liam exclaimed, his face covered in flour and a huge smile. Ethan couldn't help but laugh. "Astronaut cookies? And what are those like?" "They're star-shaped and covered in silver icing, of course," Mariana replied, winking at Ethan. At that moment, Ethan felt something he hadn't felt in a long time: hope. Liam's laughter was music to his ears, and seeing his son happy again filled his heart with joy. He felt his shoulders relax for the first time in days when he saw her. In the midst of chaos, uncertainty, and the burden he carried, knowing there was someone there, someone he could trust, brought a silent relief. He didn't need to say anything. The simple fact of not being alone in that difficult moment was enough to make him breathe a little deeper. Besides taking care of Liam, Mariana also began helping Ethan get back on his feet. She encouraged him to take care of himself, reminding him to take breaks from work and try to relax. "You can't take care of Liam if you don't take care of yourself first," she would say gently. One night, after Liam had gone to sleep and Mariana was getting ready to leave, they started to have a casual conversation, and Ethan confessed his fears and insecurities. "Sometimes I feel like I'm failing as a father," he said, his voice low and trembling. "I don't know if I'm doing enough, if I'm making up for Laura's absence." Mariana placed a comforting hand on his arm. "Ethan, look at me," she said firmly. "You are a great father. Liam is lucky to have you. You're doing the best you can in a difficult situation, and that is more than enough." Mariana's words touched Ethan deeply. He felt the tears he had been holding back for so long finally fall. As the weeks passed, the Thompsons' house gained new life. The yellow walls seemed brighter. Liam's toys were no longer symbols of sadness, but of a happy childhood being lived. The piles of work on the dining table diminished, replaced by board games and puzzles that the family put together. Ethan began to feel lighter. He realized that even in the most difficult moments, there are people who appear to remind us that we are not alone. And sometimes, these people are those whom we helped in the past, even without knowing the impact they would have in the future. On a sunny Saturday, while Ethan watched Mariana and Liam playing in the garden, he had an epiphany. Life hadn't ended when Laura left. In fact, a new journey was just beginning. He realized that he had spent so much time looking back, lamenting what he had lost, that he almost didn't notice the new possibilities opening up in front of him. That night, after Liam went to bed, Ethan called Mariana for a talk. "Mariana," he began, feeling his heart race, "I want to thank you for everything you've done for us. I know it's your job, but you not only took care of Liam, you also helped me find my way back to myself." Mariana smiled, her eyes shining with emotion. "No need to thank me, Ethan. You both have brought as much joy into my life as I have to yours." Ethan took a deep breath. "I think I spent too much time trying to understand what I lost, without realizing that life was giving me a new chance to start over. You helped me see that. And more than that, you reminded me that true friendships are a gift. I hope we can continue to count on each other no matter what happens." Mariana nodded, moved. "I hope so too." They smiled at each other, and Ethan felt, for the first time in a long while, that he was exactly where he was meant to be. A year after Mariana's arrival, Ethan learned that Laura had moved on with someone else. At first, he felt a pang in his chest, not for himself, but for Liam, who had grown up without his mother's constant presence. However, there was no anger in his heart. He understood that every choice carries its consequences, and although he did not wish any harm upon Laura, he knew life, in some way, would teach her the lessons she still needed to learn. The good deeds we do today may come back to us in the future, even when we least expect it. The kindness, generosity, and support we offer to others not only impact their lives, but also create a legacy that can sustain us in the most challenging times. Ethan learned that one should never underestimate the power of a helpful or caring gesture. It can be the light we need on a dark day. And so, under the starry sky of that quiet town, Ethan, Mariana, and Liam carried on with their lives, united by a bond of friendship and companionship, ready to face whatever the future might bring. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment with a rating from 1 to 5 to show how much you liked it. Also, watch the video that is now appearing on your screen. See See you soon.